When I was asked to make my chapel speech, like many before me, I didn't know what to say, what my message should be, how to entertain you guys. I've sat through many chapel speeches. Some have been incredible windows into the lives and minds of Appleby students. Other speakers have had quotes from famous people or goals to live by. Others have talked about finding their life's purpose. What could I add? What unique perspective or insight or experience could I share? I settled on a theme, and over the past week, I wrote my speech. I submitted it to the Rev, Mr. Moores, Dr. Carter, and Mr. Grant to review. They provided some comments, and I started making refinements. But one of the comments really hit home, and no matter how much I worked on the speech, I couldn't shake this one suggestion. Make it personal. Be vulnerable. Speak from the heart. My speech was pretty good, and I put in a lot of time. But I wasn't happy with it. And by now, it was already Monday night, with not much time left. Be vulnerable. Make it personal. They were right. They pushed me, as good teachers do, to be better. And I realized that delivering a chapel speech to my friends, to my peers, to my teachers is a responsibility. To be honest, to dig deep, to speak from the heart. So I threw away a perfectly good chapel speech and called home to ensure Mom and Dad were supportive of my new theme. And with today fast approaching, I worried less about the perfect grammar and wordsmithing and more about being honest and the privilege of having this opportunity to tell my story. I decided that I will combine a personal perspective with the first word of our Collie House motto, courage. So, here it goes. This is a story that I wasn't going to tell. More so, a story I didn't want to tell. I never really talk about it, and besides, it seemed too obvious. But then I realized I have a unique opportunity to share my own learnings. That is why today I feel that it is my responsibility to those people who have gone before me and to those who will follow to share my story, to heed the advice provided and dig deep. Sharing this will take courage, which is appropriate because this speech is about courage. I am deaf. I don't like to ever talk about it, and when I do, it's normally in the form of a joke. But I don't like being deaf. Often, I actually really hate it. I hate the feeling that I am different from anyone else, because really, I'm not. I don't want sympathy or any special attention, so don't make me sit in the front row or tell me that I don't need to swim in swimming class. And speaking slowly doesn't make your voice any louder. Come on, people. I am deaf, but I don't know sign language. And I don't have a hearing ear dog, but if I did, it would be a bulldog with a red bandana around its neck. And I don't have a hearing aid, but I do have a cochlear implant. I was born deaf. Apparently 1 in 10,000 people are deaf when there's no family history or genetics. I was at 1 in 10,000. My mom and dad figured it out when I was 6 months old. Apparently Dad snuck up behind me while I was in the high chair and banged a bunch of pots together behind my back. I just kept looking and smiling at my mom, not even blinking. Not even blinking or reacting to the sudden noise behind me. My dad knew the diagnosis by watching Mom break into tears. Apparently, I just kept shoving baby food into my mouth, probably wondering why my mom was all of a sudden crying. Soon after that day, my parents discovered that there was a brand new procedure being done, called a cochlear implant. They had only implanted kids in Canada as young as 18 months, but I was just 6 months. Sick Kids Hospital said that they would implant me at 12 months if my mom and dad signed a form acknowledging it was an experimental procedure not yet proven and waiving the hospital of all liability relating to a procedure they had never done before on such a young child. Obviously, I was unaware of all this, as I was just crawling around, eating, filling my diaper, and totally oblivious. I was oblivious to the fact I was supposed to be hearing sounds and making my own noises. When the operation came, it was not a small one. It was a biggie. I was on the table for about 3 hours, and after shaving my little baby head and cracking my skull open like a coconut, the doctors implanted a band of electrodes in my cochlea, which is a part of the inner ear. Eventually, they wrapped my head in bandages, and after 3 days, sent me home. A month later, they attached what is like a hearing aid to the right side of my head, held on like a magnet. That's the part that people see, with the other half of it permanently tucked inside my skull. Just for a minute, I want you to imagine never hearing a thing. No idea what noises are. Totally quiet your whole life, all day, every day. Then one day, a switch is turned on, and all the sounds come rushing to you at once. That was my big day. May 19th, 2000. And the big day came with nurses and doctors in the room, warning my parents that when they turned on my implant, it would be adding a whole new sense to a young baby, comparing it to every hair on someone's arm having nerves. It was all captured on video. The noise made me cry, and the noise of me crying made me cry even harder. Even the nurses and doctors cried, realizing the gift of hearing had just been provided to this 1-year-old baby for the first time. I then made monthly trips to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, which then turned into yearly visits. I had my last appointment there this past spring, and it was pretty emotional. All of the nurses and doctors who have helped me for my whole life came out of their offices to say goodbye. When we first met, I was the youngest baby they had ever dealt with, and now I was leaving them as an almost 18-year-old. As an adult, I'll no longer be a patient at Sick Kids. Wow, long story. So why am I telling you this? Good question. I'd rather not. It's personal. It makes me feel vulnerable. I'm not proud of it. I feel different. It's embarrassing. And it's often a struggle. But it's not a handicap. It's a gift. It has shaped me into who I am today. Overcoming this obstacle, and a minor one compared to so many other people, has taught me the importance of courage. So what does courage look like in my life? Simple. I try not to let my cochlear implant get in the way of me living my life the way I want to. Living my life the fullest and experiencing all it has to offer. With courage at the core, I find relatively simple ways to adapt. It means wearing a scrum cap when others don't need to wear one, or not thinking twice when I have to remove my implant, unable to hear anything when having hot tubs, going for sleepovers, or learning to water ski. It means figuring out how to wake up as a new boarder, just last month, knowing that my mom and dad wouldn't be able to rub my shoulder to wake me up every morning. It's finding a suitable way to walk on the left side of everyone, so my right ear can pick up the sounds. It means looking towards the bench when the coach wants to pull the goalie, or watching the ref's arm closely when there's a delayed penalty. It means texting my friends instead of calling. It means watching people's faces, mouths, and body language to figure out what's being said in a noisy situation. And it means having family and friends who know when and how to help out. Courage allows me to live my life and how to learn to overcome these various obstacles. But this is just my story. We all have obstacles. The obstacles that I face will be different from all of yours, but facing life with a sense of bravery is important. Courage has paved my route in life, and I have not looked back. So what does courage look like at Appleby College? We have students who are facing all kinds of challenges. Students with anxiety, students with medical conditions, students who are away from home for the first time, students who are taking courses in their second language. They are facing these situations with courage. And in fact, Appleby's motto, Nek Tamir, Nek Tamid, suggests that they are facing these challenges neither rashly nor timidly. Appleby is a school that offers so many unique opportunities. And maybe for you, having courage is trying something new. Maybe you're preparing for your own chapel speech or applying for a leadership position. Having courage allows each of us to pursue opportunities, to try new things, to push ourselves. Use your courage and do these things that seem challenging or make you nervous. We all have access to courage. It's inside of each of us. Some people have developed and refined that characteristic as a response to whatever challenges they have faced, and others may not have had to drop on their courage that often. I think that I unknowingly developed courage along the way. I remember at school back in grade 4 when we were talking about the senses, and my teacher asked me about being deaf and if I knew why I was deaf. I remember that day so well. It was terrible. My teacher was a nice lady and wasn't being mean by asking this question, but it made me so angry and sad. And everyone was looking at me because I was different from them. The worst part was that I didn't even know why I was deaf. But when I went home, I asked my parents and the basic science behind it. And I went back the next day and stood up in front of the whole class with everyone looking at me and shared what I learned. It took courage that day back in grade 4, but that same courage I used then, I use now when I face challenges in my life. Courage is something that normally comes from within, but sometimes others can help give you courage. Giving someone the courage to try something is incredible, and you can do just that by being supportive. I remember when I first started playing hockey, we couldn't find a normal hockey helmet that fit my implant under it. So what we did was buy a beginner skating helmet. I have to say, it was the ugliest helmet I have ever seen. It was perfectly round and white, making it look like an egg, and me, an egg head. It was the only helmet that would work because we could carve a hole out to put my implant inside of it. But I hated this helmet. I didn't want to go to hockey because I thought I would stand out from everyone else, and I would look funny. So what my best friend did for me was something so special. My parents brought my brother Jack a matching egg helmet, even though he could fit in any normal size one. Jack has done so many things for me in my life, but I don't think one thing he ever realized was that he gave me the courage to play hockey, something that I now love. I went from being a mini egghead Sedin twin with my big bro in Timbits hockey to playing goalie for rep hockey for 9 years. I know that, and I owe that to you, Jacko, so thank you. That was actually fun, and with the right outlook and approach, I look for perks related to being deaf. I sleep really well. I never hear Max snoring in our room. I take off my implant when I hear my mom asking for help around the house. And perhaps best of all, when Josie is on a marathon phone call with one of her friends, giggling and talking so loudly, I can sit in the next room and read, not hearing a thing. But on a serious note, having the best listener in the world as a sister isn't such a bad thing for a guy that can't hear. Thanks, Jojo. Courage is often the fear of unknown, not knowing what to expect or what the outcome might be. And as a result, when you come out on the other side intact, courage is often replaced with confidence. I look at some of the young boarders in our house or international students who are away from home for the first time. I'm sure you guys are struggling at times, and I'm sure it takes courage to do what you are doing. But as you get through each day and each week, you are becoming more and more comfortable and confident, and relying less on your courage as you discover and build your own strength. With time, courage is replaced by confidence. It's like building a new muscle. It's like working out in the weight room. Lifting a certain weight is tough for the first week or two, less challenging after a while, and then before you know it, you're choosing to add extra weight to make it worth your while. You've strengthened the muscle, and you want the challenge because it makes you stronger. As each of us have our own struggles, our own fears, we need courage to press ahead. And as we overcome each obstacle, we get stronger and better prepared for the next challenge. Appleby challenges us, and that's exactly what a good school should do. Teachers and coaches challenge us. Tomogamy is challenging. Auditioning for the school play, public speaking, service trips. We have to push ourselves, but in doing so, we are gaining strength and confidence, and we will be better for it. Appleby is making us stronger. I actually think I require more courage these days than when I was younger. That's hard to admit publicly, but I've noticed it more lately. Moving out of home, doing phone interviews for a summer job, having to manage my own hearing aid batteries. But I've been building up my courage muscle for years now. And while it's sometimes a hurdle, my life has taught me how to overcome obstacles, not to back down, and eventually to replace the need for courage with the empowerment of confidence. The first word of the Collie House motto, courage. We all have it. And each of us has to rely on it at different times, for different reasons. Be courageous. Try new things. Meet new people. Push your comfort zones. Hang in there. With time, courage will be second nature. I didn't want to talk about being deaf today. I try to ignore it, and I hope other people will too. But I chose to talk about it because it's my story, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I know many of you require courage at times, and maybe you wonder if you are courageous enough. I do too sometimes. But I'm getting stronger and stronger every day that I don't give in, and you are too. Thanks for hearing me. Now let's sing hymn number 423.